Popcorn therapy. 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 Popcorn therapy.
Welcome to Popcorn Therapy. I'm James Pillion.
I'm Kane Senis.
And we're at episode 12, guys.
How have you been? What have you been up to? Because it's been like almost a month or a few weeks since we've done one of these.
It's been a little while.
Mano a
the
mano.
mano a mano, man. Yeah. And look, things have been good. Nothing much to report. But I did kind of just want to share a little story from today, man, where I woke up with one hell of a hangover. It was at like a 11 on the Richter scale, you know? It was
What kind of little quarantine parties are we having?
Yeah, dude. It was a bit of a cheeky dinner party we had. You know, you know me. I'm a cowboy, and I was out there on the frontier with some fellow friends.
The frontier of your apartment?
Yeah. Yes. So there I was on the couch, feeling very sorry for myself, very vulnerable, and where did my mind go? But Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond. It's this 2018 doc that I remember just soaking up when it first came out. And on a rewatch, man, it's aged like a fine wine, man. So it's directed by Chris Smith. It's about the making of Man on the Moon, Miloš Forman's Man on the Moon. So this is the celebrated Czech American director. He is just one of those like real formative directors that sort of came up through the new Hollywood period with his celebrated Jack Nicholson film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is fucking incredible, man. That's just one of those films for the ages, man. The footage from this documentary is all from the making of the movie, and it's been sitting in I think a storage locker that Jim Carrey owns for 20 fucking years. And what is so incredible about this series is one, like the fucking most intimate look at Hollywood and what goes on behind the making of any classic, any film actually, because they're all full of drama, because we're all creative characters in our own way, and that is only going to result in some heated moments, you know, some emotions.
Big money, big personalities. Yep.
There you go. So, you know what? That's a beautiful way to segue into Jim Carrey, who the film follows. But so essentially all the footage is taken from the EPK, which for anyone that isn't in the film business, it's the press kit that a studio or a production company puts together in selling a film, in getting it out to festivals, in showing it to the media. But Jim, who at this stage was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, actually, he was the biggest star in Hollywood, comedic star. He demanded certain things, and he got it. And Ron Meyer, who ran Universal, he was one of the top 5 that started CAA. Actually, he was huge agent. He allowed Jim Carrey to hire Andy Kaufman, who he's portraying in Man on the Moon, Andy Kaufman's girlfriend or former girlfriend, and his former creative collaborator, to essentially put it together, to be the creative team behind it. And so what you're getting is this really intimate portrait where you're seeing the inner workings of a film coming to life. But what makes this exceptional is the fact that Jim was in character the entire time. So every single time he got picked up from like early in the morning to get into makeup, he was in character. And Andy was, so for anyone that doesn't know, Andy Kaufman, who sort of came up through Saturday Night Live, and he was on a show called Taxi. But he was a really out-of-the-box comedian that really challenged so much of modern-day society, but just the idea, especially on television, which is where he excelled, you know, from late-night shows and whatnot, of challenging perfectibility, of challenging this idea of beauty, of everything working together harmoniously.
But wasn't he wasn't he like a mad genius? Like wasn't
Incredibly.
he mentally but like mentally, if you were having a conversation with the guy, was he actually there? Like, was he a functioning human being that just could turn it on, or was he actually just walking around like a little off his head?
So this is part of the reason. This is a great question, because this is part of the reason that Jim made that decision to be in character the entire time. Is that one of the things with Andy is it wasn't just turning it on and off. It was when he was in character, he'd be in character for the rest of the night or that whole day. Just because for him, it wasn't about a camera rolling and a camera ending, like camera shutting off. It's about portraying a truth to the extent where people are like, is he that person? I haven't laughed this hard in a very long time. Just like that gut laughter, because it touched so many truths for me on the idea of like identity and him challenging people's conceptions, society's conceptions of identity, of what things are. And what's so beautiful, like in being in character the entire time, is he said, like, at first there was like resistance and fear, and there's incredible footage of like Danny DeVito and Paul Giamatti like just looking at the camera like, what the fuck is going on?
Right. Yeah.
Because so one of Andy Kaufman's alter egos, which is a prominent part in the movie Man on the Moon, but Tony Clifton, who was the most balls to the wall kind of character that kind of lived to destroy people. So, it was just fascinating. Someone that's like bringing women to the set, getting booze, like passing out on couches, bringing the Hells Angels, storming into the Amblin production company, which is Steven Spielberg's production house. Fascinating moments where you're like, life imitating art in so many ways.
And you were saying to me something just but before we started to roll about how I'm just going to say it had something to do with dolphins.
Yes. A key thing that for anyone that doesn't really know Jim Carrey that well is he's a man that believes in manifesting, like the power of manifestation. So you have something in your mind's eye and you will it into being. So there's a really famous story of him where I think it's the early 90s. He wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered.
Right.
And he put it in his wallet, and he gave himself 3 to 4 years. And he said in 3 years, he made it come true. Making, I think it was the Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and
maybe Dumb and Dumberer. So he wrote it to himself. He cashes the check for those films, and then he is able to pay himself on this check. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So, but essentially, that
powerful.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's one of those stories where you're like, a part of me is like, it's too Hollywood. This story. It's like, it kind of makes me sick, but it happened. And for a poor kid from Toronto that was a security guard up until he sort of got his break. It just really touched me, of someone that really put himself on the line.
How did he break in?
He just made his name in stand-up for years. Stand-up. And then he got on In Living Color, which sort of gave him the next leg up. And from there,
like a recurring role or something. Like he was a big enough role.
Yes, yeah. Dude, he's like one of the few white comedians on a majority black show. Like, it just shows how much they respected his talents, like, and what he was bringing to the table.
He's just one of those. If you would have seen him just walk into the room, like, there's no way that you look at that guy with his talents and just with how different he feels to anybody outside of maybe like Robin Williams. Maybe he's close, but like completely different thing.
Right.
And like, you see Jim Carrey walk into the room, you're not forgetting that. Like, there's no way he walks out and you're like, all right, who we got next?
He's an indelible kind of personality.
He would imprint his fucking face in your dreams.
Yeah.
He had like the biggest, he could contort his mouth as wide as a fucking velociraptor, dude. He was something else.
He is something else, man. And you know what? Like, the biggest reason why this is the ultimate rewatchable and why I know I'm going to return to it for a sense of comfort for years to come, is that it's a mix of like outrageous comedy that you see in the behind the scenes footage on the set, which you're gonna love, man. You're just gonna laugh
Oh,
so
dude,
hard.
I've been going past this on my queue like
Okay.
all the time.
You and
I've
Hannah,
never
please
watched
watch it with Hannah because
She's watched it, but she'll watch it again.
okay.
Yeah.
But so
I
it's
know,
that
she's way happy.
mixed with the seriousness of someone reflecting on their life and someone that's done the work, man. He's really processed so many of his emotions, and he even talks about working on Peter Weir's The Truman Show
Oh
and
yeah.
how that categorized. He says like every single movie he's done was a reflection of where he was at a certain point in his life. So, man, The Truman Show was about, he was one of the biggest stars of all time, and he was trying to figure out what that meant. What does it mean to never be able to walk down the street and get a pint of milk because you're going to get bombarded? Or, so that idea, and what Man on the Moon offered him as a reflection, and it's so beautiful that he's so confessional about this, is he's talking about how he'd had the most he'd ever had in his life in terms of work, financial security, and he was the most unhappy he'd ever been. And so it was just talking about, and what he was saying is what he missed about portraying Andy Kaufman, what he missed about bringing Tony Clifton to life for those months on end, was that he got to put his life on hold. All the problems that were in Jim Carrey's life disappeared. And when he returned back into his own body, he's like, all the sadness returned. Everything.
Well, that's not that. I wouldn't say that's healthy.
No, very much.
To sweep your life under the rug for a month. It's kind of what we do. Like, I mean, we go on holidays with the fam or whatever, and you're just like, oh, get back to this shit. Oh, it's still going to be here when I get back.
Right.
It is.
Yeah,
and then you're suddenly left alone again in a dark room with like a glass of whiskey, maybe one solid cube in it, and kind of just sitting there, and you're like, what have I done with my life?
Yeah. There's this amazing story where Jim Carrey talks about meeting Michel Gondry before they did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is a beautiful movie.
Just the moment those two meet, it's just like, this is happening.
Yeah, exactly. And Jim Carrey, sort of confesses that, they met a year out before they ended up working together, and he'd just gone through a really serious breakup, and he was in a really bad place. And, Michel, he's such a French director. He's looking at him. He's like, Jim, you are so beautiful. You are so beautiful in your sadness. And then he his sort of imparting line to Jim at the end of the lunch is, please don't get well. And it's this amazing moment where like Jim Carrey's like reflecting on that. And he's like, in what other industry would people ask you to stay sick, to stay unhappy so that you can bring it to life? And I just think that on its own is fascinating.
But that kind of paints Gondry in a weird light, because is Jim basically saying what he was saying to me was kind of fucked up, that he kind of wanted me to be this way for his movie? Or do you think what Gondry's saying is beautiful because he's saying, I accept you for who you are and you don't need to change, Jim. Stop thinking you're a piece of shit because you're great.
Right.
Like, is that what he meant?
Well,
or was he like, just show up fucking weird for my movie because I got to put a close up on you and I need to see that face. He's gone through some pain.
And here's the conflicting part here, because I have two parts of my brain, like the director part and then the human being part. And the director part is like, I know exactly what Michel's talking about. Like, I would love to have brought Jim Carrey's pain to the screen. That is one of the most painful fucking stories I've ever seen about heartbreak and loss. And so yes, I know that part. But then the other part is like, fuck, like that's awful. A whole year he has to wallow in this while you get the money together and get the cast together to shoot it.
Well, he doesn't have to wallow. Like, at the end of the day, he could just be like, that's very nice that you think that, Michel, but no, I'm going to go get the help that I need and start
of course,
and like imagine if Gondry's just like cutting him out and he's going to like Jim's therapist. He's just like, look, if you receive a call from Jim, you're busy.
Look, the final thing I really wanted to say, and this kind of segues into something that we both been digesting. It's so cool. I don't know. I find like a real comfort, having grown up in the 90s, of seeing this kind of tape footage,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just seeing life and realizing that very little has changed apart from technology. We're the same people. We're going through the same problems. Everything is the same, and I think there's a sense of comfort in knowing, like, okay, I'm not alone in these feelings I've got. And I had the same fucking feeling watching the first 2 episodes of The Last Dance this week,
Oh,
man.
dude. Thank you for bringing that up.
Because
I'm excited for this.
I have been
excited.
so excited, man. I put it at the top of the list of my newsletter because I was just over the moon to see Michael Jordan in his heyday, man.
Yes. And just for some context, like I fucking the NBA is my favorite reality show. Like I'm obsessed.
It's your crutch, man.
And I am a hoops junkie. And this is like a chance to be able to talk to you about basketball. And I think that's beautiful because you don't come at it from that side.
No.
You come at it from MJ and the Bulls being these larger than life celebrities, these athletes, these Adonises at the top of Mount Olympia.
Demigods, man.
Demigods.
Yeah.
Just in pop culture, even if you might not necessarily have been a hoops guy.
Yeah. I'm happy to confess it. Space Jam, baby. Space Jam. I watched that movie and I was like, I love you, MJ. Like, you're just like, just him playing b-ball with Bugs Bunny is fantastic. It was a great time.
Bill Murray
Bill
Murray and
Murray.
Michael Jordan in the same movie. It's kind of like these things that you just wake up from a dream and you're like, dude, imagine if like Michael Jordan and Bill Murray did a movie together. Dude, that would be so good. And then it never happens. But we got it, and we got to be grateful for this shit.
Yes, we do.
Saying.
Yes, we
All
do.
the doom and gloom out there, you can just kick back and you can watch Michael Jordan and Bill Murray in the same movie.
Totally, man.
And get the Looney Tunes.
And some Looney Tune action, man. It's a great time. But you know what? I'm really curious to hear what you have to say, but I just wanted to just quickly note, like, I'm not a sports aficionado, but I was absorbed, not necessarily in terms of the game itself, but the way they play the game. It's just next level, man.
And the drama. Like, I mean, it's
great,
it's dramatic. Like, I mean, you don't really have to be a sports fan to understand that the general manager is trying to like break up the fucking team.
Jerry Krause, man. Good God.
Why? And I'm racking my brain and I'm going back over it like a movie and thinking, hang on, there's a fatal flaw here. Like, they haven't explained to us why someone would do that. It doesn't make any sense if you're a general manager of a basketball team. I'm not saying he didn't do it. He obviously did do it because we got all these people like saying it on camera. Yep. But why does Ryan Storr, the owner, he's won 3 titles in a row. Okay, then they missed the next one, but that was because MJ went to go play baseball, and they still got to the Eastern Conference Finals just with Scotty leading the way. Fucking love Scottie Pippen.
Wow.
He's
Scottie
like,
P, man.
It's Kobe, and then it's like Scotty was my favorite player from the second I discovered what basketball was.
Oh, really?
And then it was Kobe from like 13 through high school on because he was current.
Yep.
But Scotty represents my first era of kind of fandom.
Oh.
Because I always loved that he was the Robin. Everyone loves the Batman, but I always loved that there was this, and the documentary is right, and I've never heard it said before, that they said Scottie Pippen was the second best player in the NBA. Like,
that's right.
Everyone goes, well, the Bulls, man. Well, of course they won. They had MJ. I'm fucking gushing about the
You're gushing,
stats
baby.
here.
I love
I'm ranting. So a question for you, do you, is it the drama of that stuff that's sucking you in? Like, if you're learning a new business in a movie, like you might not work in the stock exchange, but suddenly you're able to watch.
It's funny. That kept me going, but why I really stayed was the intimate kind of access, the intimate kind of look into the lives of MJ, of Scottie Pippen, seeing where they came from, seeing their road to the top of the crop, I'm
on the wrong show here. I really need to get on one of those ESPN podcasts.
You need your own separate fucking hoops podcast, baby.
Well, no, I've got my hoops friends here, but I mean, it's just not a cultural sport in
It's
Australia.
not,
Obviously,
it's
I mean,
not.
it's the American League, but it's interesting how both of us had these different kind of approaches to something,
Isn't it?
and
Yeah, that's what I love about these things.
yeah, but still worked for us both because I mean, I'm obviously looking at it as kind of like an inside baseball take on basketball. Like I'm like studying all these kinds of
Oh,
stories.
you're really
right?
getting to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, dude. Because I mean, I basically listen to I probably listen to 5 to 6 hours of basketball podcasts a week.
Wow. Okay.
So
All
you
right.
know, all they do is talk about like I've known about this doc for like a year and about
you have.
it's been the holy grail of the sports world for so long because they were sitting on this
Okay.
footage.
Can we just talk about this?
That's the best part.
So for anyone that hasn't seen it, my God, get streaming on Netflix. It's so good. All of this footage from the 97-98 NBA season of the Chicago Bulls, which was the final year for this kind of dream team. Is that right?
Beatles, they were like the
They were
Beatles
the
of
fucking
sport.
Beatles of sport. And it's been sitting in a vault, 500 hours of 16 millimeter film, which is a very special thing that we have to have a quick shout out about.
It doesn't feel like you're watching basketball today on your Ultra HD
That's right.
screen. It
Yep.
feels like it's shot in the context of a movie.
Mhm.
So it's like when they
It
shoot
feels
the
like a
court,
movie.
when they shoot the court, it's like a scene from Space Jam or something. It's within a film because that texture of the film and the richness of it
Yeah.
and the softness of it, especially compared to how super bright and crisp sports is today.
Oh my God.
Sports more than
It's almost
anything.
too crisp for me.
But it's the best way to watch action in that
I
format.
see. Yeah. That kind of 4K.
Right. But film is luring you into a fairy tale. And
That's
so
true.
that
And
footage is able to do that.
That, you know what, Kane, you fucking nailed it. It's the fairy tale, dude. It's like the Beatles playing on the roof of Apple Records in London. It's like their final performance. Like there is something great about capturing the footage of these momentous moments.
It's just crazy because you rarely know that this is the last season. Like I think I don't know when else that would have happened because it was a unique scenario where the players all kind of knew that the writing was on the wall that for whatever reason the management just did not want Phil Jackson to coach this team anymore.
Wow, man. Can I just ask, because I'll be honest, I do not know much about the intricate sort of life and moments of MJ in the 90s. The portrait that you see of MJ at this moment in The Last Dance, the first 2 episodes, what do you get? Like, does it confirm what you know, or were there moments that surprised you?
No, it very much feels like this is the Jordan that I know of, that I've read about and that I've watched and that I've kind of heard a lot of sports writers and analysts kind of talk about over the years, especially in recent years when a lot of this talk has started up about maybe LeBron James is the greatest player of all time.
Oh, I see.
You watch something like this and all it did was confirm for me, as great as LeBron James is, it just confirmed for me this guy is something else. It's not just about being the best in the sport. He was just a rare human being, full stop, with what he could make happen.
Dude.
He was one of the special ones beyond sport, I believe.
There's a part of me I can't explain. Like there's like this ineffable sense of you just are special. Like just watching him, the way he talks, the way he explains, like, you know, looks back at this time, like from his amazing mansion in Florida. This is just a guy that feels like he's floating, man. It feels like he's like floating. He's just levitating above the rest of us.
Dude, I just love when he's sitting there with his glass of whiskey and he's.
Did you see that too? I was like, it
kept changing. So to get down there and then it'd be like completely full the next shot. So like it was probably just continuity on the thing, or Jordan was fucking smashing those things.
He might have been hitting the bottle, man, hitting the sauce.
And then he makes this comment at one point where he's like, "Oh man, I didn't do any of that. I mean, I still don't." And he goes, "Well, except for drink." And I was just like, "You're fucking sauce during this interview right now.
Yeah.
You've retired. You've fucking done everything you wanted to do,
dude,
and you're just fucking getting hammered every day, living it up in your Florida mansion."
Would love to know what bottle of whiskey is MJ's crutch, man. Where does he go? This breaks my heart.
I don't even know if you can buy it off the shelf. It's probably like he sent a team out to Mexico, and they're like spelunking and cracking open cave walls and draining it of certain like nutrients. And and aging it, and this was aged like 100 years ago, and this is like it's like pioneering American whiskey, and like MJ's buying it for like $1,000 a drop.
Good God.
Is he just drinking Jameson?
I mean, this is a great question. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of this. If we can do some deep diving, see what we find.
There's two kinds of rich guys, right? There's like the rich guy who lives it up, and then there's a rich guy who doesn't like to see the bank account get lower.
That's what I'm talking about. Who knows with MJ?
I think he's a living it up kind of guy. I mean, he used to show up to the games in fur fucking coats. He had a 3-piece suit with a gold chain and a
dude,
fur coat.
let's have a quick corner for his sartorial choices, man. That motherfucker looks so good, man. Every time he shows up before the game, like 3-piece suit or like a 3-button suit, I'm like, dude, who is this guy?
Swish as fuck, dude. He had that backwards Kangol hat
Yes.
with the hoop earring.
Oh, yes, man.
Oh, dude, it's fucking MJ before it's Sam Jackson, isn't it?
Dude, Sam Jackson. I bet
got
he
that
fucking
from MJ.
loved MJ, man.
He lifted that straight from MJ's sartorial playbook.
Oh my God, dude.
So if you go onto your ESPN apps or whatever, all the NBA players are talking about this doc because it's kind of like the holy grail for all the players as well.
Wow.
They grew up just like worshipping this guy. So there's these NBA kind of Twitter reactions, and one of the guys, I forget who, I think it's a good player, and he's just like, man, that's it. It's done. I'm bringing back the Kangol hat and the hoop earring.
I said to Billy, I said to my girlfriend, you just watch. This is going to change culture again. Like
they're going to start to dress like MJ and those guys again and show up to games in like pinstripe suits and shit.
But I feel like MJ revolutionized the marketing, like the sale of a dream in all aspects, from the sporting side to the leisure to just a human being, like what you can look like on the street.
And he just had a different approach to things. So even when it came to kind of doing his ads, he was like, let's do it with Spike Lee. Like, I want to work with Spike.
Yes, dude. Yes.
Or, he's going, hey, how about the next ad campaign that we do? I'm actually talking about all the failures I've had in my life. So there's this great ad campaign where like he's getting out of the limo and all the cameras there, and he's just walking through like the tunnel to get to the locker room, and he's just saying all the failures he's had in his life. He's saying like it's like a stat. He's like, I've missed 10,000 shots in my life, fouled out, I've cost us the game, I've been thrown out against, like all this stuff that no one ever likes to talk about when you're a winner. And he wanted to remind everyone of that. And then at the end, he just goes, all those failures taught me to succeed. So he's like, he knows the kids are watching, and he's like, that's important, because it's not helpful to just sometimes look at these people and think that they've got it figured out.
Right.
And that must mean that I'm useless and nothing's ever going to happen for me. And that's why we have such kind of like apathy in a lot of our lives.
Right. And you know what? And it's important that we just sort of speak about this, because there were so many things that, translate so well to cinema, to the popcorn universe. And, just that every time you fall, you got to just pick yourself up and work a little harder, work a little smarter. And I think that's the business as well. Like, that's the business we're in, of there is talent, but there's also just tenacity of how can I just push a little harder, push a little smarter. And that's what I get from watching it as well, of just inspiring me, like even just to go for a run in the morning, of, push your body, work it, like work your mind, like be smarter. Like if you've got a dream, go get it. But you've got to put the time in. You've got to work a little harder than everybody else if you want to be the best. And I think that's fucking yes.
Yes, and there is a flip side to that, because and I know, because it's really kind of something that I deal with all the time, but I find that part is almost the easy part, like the part where I just go, I see this light at the end of the tunnel, I'm barreling towards it, and I'm all about the work, I'm all about, like, I push myself, right? But the danger is that then you start to really beat yourself up for every time you quote unquote fail.
I know.
Or you're set back, instead of going, oh wow, okay, I tried this, that didn't work, that's interesting,
right.
I'm going to learn from that. Like, that's the ultimate, like, operating from your centered self and seeing everything for what it is, like not being kind of driven by fear or bitterness. It's like tripping and then going, shit, all right, I tripped, but at least I was running for a bit. That was pretty good to run. I'll learn from this.
Yes.
It's easy to lose sight of that and to just go, I'm fucking getting there. Like nothing's going to stop me, because you can turn into a bit of an asshole as well.
And come on, yes, that, you know what? This really brings me back to reflecting on, my first film and the years afterwards of kind of beating myself up for failing in a certain way, like in my eyes, most importantly.
Why did you think you failed?
Well,
Why?
it's that whole thing of, the comparison
Yeah,
anxiety.
yeah.
And so you compare your movie to other movies in that world, in that price category.
Yeah. Why did this reviewer say this thing about my film? Why did they say it about that?
Right. Or why didn't Netflix want to buy it? Or why this? Or why can't I get a deal to make my next movie? All these things. What, even The Last Dance, like, just helps to reaffirm for me your attempt is worth celebrating. Like, you shooting for that game, that point that's going to fucking win the game, that's something to celebrate on its own.
Well, shit, dude. Like, I mean, another classic basketball saying is that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Oh my God.
Like, right? So,
Boom.
So, boom, swish. So wouldn't you think, okay, the more times I can get this out of the way, like the more times I can just fucking like run into shit and hit the walls and trip, like, yeah, like bring on the failures. I want 10 in a row, because then I know I'm closer to breaking through.
Right.
If you just had like one thing go bad, then it's almost like, okay, shit, now I need to go like 50% hit rate. Now I need to get the next one, or I'm going to be 0 for 2. Like, I want to fucking get, I hate it and I fight it, but like, I want to get hit by all those asteroids as quick as I can so that I can learn those lessons, because every time you get stronger for it, and every time you're actually better than you thought you were at the thing.
Yeah, dude, this is a really, really important, really powerful point. And, something that I've been thinking about after watching his latest special, but Louis C.K., man. We spoke about him a couple of episodes ago with the lovely Hannah Barlow on the show, but I put down some hard-earned cash on his website to rent Sincerely, which is his latest special, because, I'm happy to confess, I missed him. I miss his comedy. I miss the way he speaks to some really uncomfortable topics and makes me feel the better for it. At least I'm thinking about that topic now, of abortions or dead fetuses or your mother dying, or, I don't want my mother to die, but it's an inevitability. So the more I can have moments where at least I can laugh in the face of sadness, I don't know, I just think it helps make the journey a little lighter. And, speaking of failures, man, that is the ultimate failure. Like, I believe he's still currently canceled, but for him to get up in front of an enormous audience and bring that same sense of irreverence back to life, and sort of confessing and speaking to the scandal as well, I don't know, man. It's a real sense of, even someone at the top that's fallen very far is willing to pick himself up and get back on the horse.
So he acknowledges it.
He acknowledges it. And I think one thing, and this is a big reason of why I love him, is he helps us realize that we're all the same. We've all got our fears and our weaknesses. We all want to be loved. We all want to feel like we're worthy of just being alive. And, essentially saying, like, we all have our weaknesses, our fallibilities, like our things that we don't want anyone else to know, like some of the darkest secrets in our imagination of maybe whatever it is. I don't know. But we've all got it.
Well, I mean, I've got it, but it's not wanking off in front of women in
Right.
in a corner of a party.
I agree with you. You're absolutely right. It's just a question of, we've all got our weird fucking thing. And now he's realized, I really fucked this up. I really abused my privilege, my power. And,
Does he realize that?
Yes, dude.
So he addresses it because I thought he hadn't wanted to
No.
kind of apologize or something like
It's
that.
not like, he's not on his knees, he's not crying. But
No.
one thing that I did want to speak to is his black shirt is fucking moist, man. Like there are patches all over it by the end where like I felt for him of like he's roasting under that spotlight in terms of fuck, like this is so heavy, like me facing my fears.
So you think it's that and not just that he wore black under a hot light?
Well, no, but black is also meant to help cover up the stains, but it's like
Right.
very noticeable on this.
There's like a lot of stakes riding there.
There's a lot of
How
stakes.
have I not gone to watch that?
Dude,
realized
I
it was
would
on his
highly recommend it. And anyone out there that has had a similar thought, like my friend Anna Harrison, shout out. She loves the podcast, and
Shout out,
she
Anna.
was saying she thanked me last night over dinner, and she was just thanking me for putting it in the newsletter because she's had similar thoughts, and it was so nice and refreshing to have a woman that because I can't really speak to much truth as a white straight male, so it was just comforting to know that she'd also missed that sense of comedy.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of comedy,
Oh yeah.
how's this for one? Have you seen the Netflix show, The Movies That Made Us? It's
There's
trip
4.
down
How
memory
many
lane.
episodes are there?
There's like Dirty Dozen, Die Hard, Ghostbusters, and Home Alone.
I've seen the Ghostbusters one. Yes, yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, so I just watched that the other night, and I was just filled with so much. Like I used to run around in a Ghostbuster outfit with my buddy Ash Moses. Shout out Ash,
dude.
And he had these custom made Ghostbusters outfits with our names printed
Oh
on
my
there. Like,
god.
and we had a business called Pollution Busters. And we would go door to door dressed as fucking Ghostbusters, but we were pollution busters. And instead of like a ghost trap, we had like, I think we were making like some kind of metal thing that we carried around, and it had like all our disinfectants.
Is
and
this
shit
a
in
business or is this Halloween?
No, this is like a business. Like we were like 12 years old, and we were like, let's basically clean people's houses, but call ourselves pollution busters. And then at the time, because I love Ghostbusters so much, I was like, that's so cool. Like, I want to like rid this surface of all the pollution, and like yeah. And then I'm like, hang on, I'm just fucking cleaning someone's house.
Yeah,
Like
you've
where's
just
my
like
feather duster?
the poor like Colombian housekeeper that was cleaning the place. They fired her because they're like pollution busters. They're not even asking for money.
I think the reality is she was still working there, but like the mother just let us come in and do it anyway because she was friends with Ash's mum across the street, and like they didn't want us to know that we weren't really getting hired. So we got like
I was going to say at least
each.
the mums know where you are and that you're not
We designed a
not in
patch
a
and
car
everything.
accident.
Oh, they're just cleaning. They're just cleaning the Robinson's house across the street, dressed up as Ghostbusters.
Where's
Like
our
you've done, weird.
boys? Yeah.
Anyway, so Ghostbusters was just so much a part of my childhood that I don't even think of it as a favorite film. I think of it as like a cousin or like an uncle. And I had no idea that they all came out of SNL. It was an SNL movie, like the Blues Brothers.
Man, that's something that has blown my mind. There's been a few moments like this. Yep.
Yeah, and that's why it reminded me when you said that, because just so much good shit comes from comedy, dude. Like these guys were just sketch artists, basically like a sideways step from being a stand-up.
You know what's really interesting about that whole Ghostbusters script, and I only discovered this from this incredible New Yorker profile on Harold Ramis from 2004 or something, but so Harold Ramis took Dan Aykroyd's script, which was really quite out there. It was like all over the place. I think there was a bit of set in space as well. He had a real knack for just cementing these wacky ideas within like a Hollywood 3-act structure, but also knowing where to play the strengths. So he would give a lot of the best lines to Bill Murray. So Bill Murray would always shine the brightest in every scene.
Bill was kind of he was the hunk of the three. Like he was the star.
Well, everybody just loved Bill and still does. But what was so interesting, it's contested, but that Bill was slightly jealous of Harold because Harold got a lot of the credit behind the curtain of
Right.
shaping Bill Murray into the comedic star. So here's something that I only discovered recently, and tell me if you knew about this. But Bill Murray, he is like a real kind of larger than life character, like an incredibly emotional, intellectual character that had aspirations to do much more than broad comedy. So
Right.
one of
Right.
the reasons he ended up doing Ghostbusters, I discovered, was he wanted to direct his first movie called The Razor's Edge. And it's about a guy that fights in World War One, becomes disillusioned, and then throws off like the world that he had set up. So marrying into a good family and being like an honorable gentleman to essentially follow his dreams and live the life he wants. So becoming essentially a bohemian character. So he directed it. It came out in 1985, 86. It's a really interesting film I just watched. And, you know, it flopped, and he fucking left the country for 6 months, like dropped all his projects and went to study philosophy at the Sorbonne. Dude, it's insane. I had no idea. Like the biggest comic star in Hollywood.
That's great. And then what about how him and Ramis have this, not a falling out, but like I thought it was interesting in that episode that it sheds this other light on Murray.
That's what I wanted to
You've
talk
got-
to you about. Yes.
You've got Ramis's daughter sitting there kind of being like, you know, they just drifted away. And you know, Dad would reach out to him, and Bill just kind of shut him out of his life.
He did, man. He did.
And it made her dad so sad over the years. And you're like, fuck. And then he gets sick, he gets cancer
Yep.
and shit.
And that only then did Bill Murray come to his bedside.
Yes, turns up at the police station in this town where Ramis is, and he goes, I don't have an address for this guy, because this is obviously like pre-internet or
Oh
whatever.
my God.
He's like, I don't have an address for this guy, but can you just take me to him? And so the police drop Murray to Ramis's house for them to go in and reconcile. So, you know,
That's
just as I was
incredible.
just as I was kind of like, man, that sucks to fucking hear that, like, this guy that I think is so amazing was a bit of a douche, it sounds like. Then suddenly he comes good in some way. I mean, I don't obviously know the kind of context of it all, but it's just I was just happy to hear. Like, I didn't expect that from an episode of the movies that made us. Like, it doesn't really get poignant in any of the other episodes. They're like fun.
Oh, that's so interesting that I only clicked on that one.
Dude, have you seen Horse Girl on Netflix with Alison Brie?
Oh, is it good?
It's an original film that she wrote, and Jeff Boehner, who did a film called Joshi, I think in 2014 with Tom Middleditch from Silicon Valley, and I've been meaning to catch it for a while. It's just one of those ones that it's always sat there on my list.
Dude, you'll really enjoy it. Actually, it's a good ride.
Sweet. Yeah, there's just something about it. And he directed this, so they co-wrote, and he directed, and it's based on something that she kind of witnessed in her grandmother, like a certain. It's almost like I don't want to give anything away because you should just go in blind. But for those that just need a little bit more, what I'll just say is it's a story about mental illness, but it's very interesting. It's tonally very bizarre. It jumps around. You're not sure if it's like a horror film or a comedy or a drama, but if you're patient with it, it comes together, and you kind of step back and go, geez, that film has taught me something about the human condition and having greater understanding for people with mental illness, much like the Joker did. Joker,
Yes,
I
yes,
should
yes.
say.
Yeah.
If you look past all the trappings, Marvel, DC, no. It's they weren't interested in that. Todd Phillips wanted to make a film about a man struggling with mental illness and falling through the cracks of a system where, you know, he can no longer get access to his meds, and all it takes is one bad thing, one really bad day. That's all it takes, right? It's like Falling Down with Michael Douglas. It's like,
Dude,
one
love that
bad day.
movie.
One bad day, and we're all one really bad day away from just stepping over that line and like slipping into like this other side of our psychoses, I guess. And I don't know. So Horse Girl's a really interesting watch for that reason, and I just think Alison Brie she's just doing something in it where she's writing the script just by being there, because she does so much to gain your empathy, and she's just one of those actors that's able to do that just in the close up without having to speak too much. There's something so sweet about her.
Yeah. She continues to
endearing.
grow on me.
Yes.
Mad Men, even
Globe.
BoJack Horseman, man.
Dude,
Dude.
she's doing some really cool shit.
She's really,
Um,
really interesting.
Anyway, but I just wanted to drop Horse Girl in there because I think, and I'll get on my soapbox again. Just that whole idea about these films are just buried in Netflix. They release like fucking
I know.
100 films a day, and no one fucking knows about Horse Girl. But 10 plus years ago, it would have been marketed. It would have been in bus stops, and you would be hearing about this really cool, indie made, gorgeously shot, interesting, introspective, psychological thriller.
Well, you know what else, to my mind at least, that felt very overlooked. I don't remember even seeing it come out. Velvet Buzzsaw, baby, is
Dude, we never talked about
I
that.
know, man. And what I just sort of want to I want to round this conversation out on Dan Gilroy, man. I just think that son of a bitch, he's flying under the radar and bringing these incredible genre films into life, like fascinating looks at characters that are just hungry for a certain thing and will not stop until they get there.
And just working in that really interesting kind of genre space, like you said, where he's keeping his budgets to a certain level,
Mhm.
and it feels like an 80s film.
Yes,
like
yes.
they feel like these tight little kind of thrillers that that would have been in the cinemas starring Richard Gere in the 80s.
Hmm.
But he's also he's ratcheting that up to like 11. Like they're such high stakes.
To my mind, he sits in a very similar camp to Denis Villeneuve.
Yes,
Kind of like
yes, but
brooding.
less cool than Villeneuve. Like
He's just sort of getting to the point. He's not
he's like the bombastic kind of. He's Tony Scott's to Villeneuve's Ridley.
very interesting. Okay, he's the Tony Scott Villeneuve. Okay, so I only watched Velvet Buzzsaw a couple of weeks ago, but the one that I just sort of want to also jump in before we get into Buzzsaw, because we have to have a chat about it, is Roman J. Israel, which is his second film, his follow-up after Nightcrawler with Denzel Washington.
I skipped that one.
Jump on
that.
it. It is
Really?
fascinating. Like all his films are set in LA predominantly, and they just offer this incredible portrait. And this one, it's a fictional story that feels so real. Like I was ready to look him up on Wikipedia, and he's an African American attorney that's been toiling away in like the civil rights sort of area of law, and then cut to present day. He looks like straight out of the late 70s, afro, crazy outfits. He's like a sore thumb. He stands out like a sore thumb. And it's the most heartwarming story of him kind of coming of age when his business partner at the firm dies of a heart attack. I think it's one of Denzel's like best roles because you're seeing such vulnerability, which you haven't seen. Let's be honest. I don't remember the last time I've seen like that vulnerability. Maybe since like Man on Fire, like
There you go,
Tony
dude.
Scott, dude.
That's proven the Tony Scott connection.
Woof, dude. Love that movie. Talk to me about Velvet Buzzsaw because you've seen it twice already.
So for whatever reason, it had a hypnotic effect on me. It's a wacky movie, and I think a lot of people will be turned off by it in some way. But you got to remember, it's a satire, and it's funny, and it's really dark. It's like American Psycho level kind of dark humor.
Very good. It's American Psycho, yeah.
Yeah. But I loved that, and I loved how they made it ridiculous and funny, and it didn't feel like anything you had seen before. And it feels like a takedown on Hollywood in a way.
Very much. Yeah.
The veiled. He's targeting the fine art world.
Come on. All right. Here's just a little. Let's bend the knee for Gyllenhaal here, man. He goes out on a limb on this. Like, I just love that he continues to really push the boundaries. Like,
he's flapping in the wind, dude.
it's a really outrageous character. Like, and how he takes it to 11, man. He like brings it up, and even that scene of him naked, like on the couch, like just like on his laptop. I'm like, that's really interesting.
But that's why it feels like such a kind of fuck you. Like, it feels like they're saying fuck you to certain people in the industry, whether it be studio heads or agents or whatever.
And I feel like there's certain liberties that they can have being a Netflix original.
Yeah.
Where Netflix is like, we don't give a shit. Like, let's embrace.
They would have been giggling every day. Like, that just looks like a fun movie to make.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And man, I love that Dan Gilroy has brought Rene Russo back, his wife. To like the big screen, man. Yeah, he's married to her.
Dan Gilroy's wife.
Yeah, dude. That's why Nightcrawler, man. I just love they brought the Nightcrawler team back with Jake and Renee, man.
That's so true. Yes.
So good.
Yes. Oh man, I'm excited to see what they do next.
Me too.
Dude, we got to wrap it.
Okay. Yeah, we do.
I probably got to kick it because I'm going to watch part 3 and 4 of The Last Dance.
Oh, scurvy dog!
I've been waiting all weekend like a giddy child.
Man, we went down some beautiful little rabbit holes, and it's been a treat.
Man, I didn't get to like 3/4 of my list.
I was just thinking, like, did we?
That's good.
Okay, well, we'll save them for next time.
See you later,
alligator.
Whoa! In a while, crocodile. I got MJ on my dial.